God forbid men have hobbies like overturning the democratic results of the 2020 election. Your Honor, I did not realize it was illegal. What happened? This is a day of celebration. This is a day of joyous celebration. This is a day where Donald Trump is indicted again, dude. Let's get into the goddamn news. Holy shit. What are we doing? Okay, let's do it. Here's the 3-minute break now. Let's get started. Georgia grand jury indicts Trump, 18 allies in election interference case. Let's go.
I know you heard about it, about Donald Trump. The former president has been indicted again, this time by the state of Georgia, on charges he and 18 others engaged in criminal conspiracy. They are accused of trying to undermine the results of the 2020 election in Georgia, a state that he lost by nearly 12,000 votes. Now, just in case this is all starting to get confusing, we get it. This is the fourth indictment of the former president, who is currently campaigning to be president again. And this one is on serious state charges, which means if he were to be convicted, he could not pardon himself. Nicole Killian is following it all at the courthouse in Atlanta, and she's got the latest for us. Nicole, good morning to you. What can you tell us?
Good morning to you, Gail. District Attorney Fani Willis has asked all 19 defendants to surrender within the next 10 days, and she wants to try all of them together. This sprawling indictment lays out an alleged criminal enterprise, citing criminal acts here in Georgia and 6 other states.
But Kemp can easily and would pardon him. As far as I understand, the pardoning process in Georgia is not as open and shut. There is a pardoning board. And also, Brian Kemp himself is not the type of person who would pardon Donald Trump, in my opinion. I mean, he's a Republican Party cutout. And if Donald Trump won the presidency, he would absolutely pardon him if he had the power to do so. I think he's that type of person because Republicans always fall in line. But having said that, Brian Kemp himself is not exactly fond of Donald Trump, partially because of what is literally going on in this Georgia case. Because Brian Kemp is the governor of Georgia. Before he was the governor of Georgia, he was the Secretary of State of Georgia. And he was an incredibly corrupt, awful demon of a Republican, as is your job if you are the Secretary of State in Georgia. It's quite literally to ensure that you're purging people off the voter ballots. You're making sure that there are no polling stations in like black and brown neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods in general. And that, of course, set him up nicely for the gubernatorial race, which he defeated Stacey Abrams in and became the governor of Georgia. So after that happened, Donald Trump, who had pushed for him originally, did the mafioso thing and said, all right, time to help me out. I've been a supporter of yours. Go ahead, give me votes. Now, he didn't directly say that to Brian Kemp, but he has alluded to it with Brian Kemp as well, including other people in the Georgia state administration. Now, when Brian Kemp said absolutely not and spoke out against it, which, by the way, makes him not a good guy, okay? I don't think he's a good guy at all. I don't think that Brian Kemp and Rafflesberger, or however you say his name, I don't think these are like good guys. They're still Republicans, okay? But they are party loyalist Republicans and not necessarily Trump loyalist Republicans. They're party loyalist Republicans who are also smart enough to recognize, like, I don't want to go to fucking jail, okay? So Brian Kemp openly was contentious towards Donald Trump, to which Donald Trump absolutely did not take kindly to, and then spent pretty much the last couple of years shitting on Brian Kemp, including trying to set up a primary opponent against him who lost. So the reality is that there is there's not exactly a lot of love between Brian Kemp and Donald Trump. So even in a situation in Georgia, as I mistakenly thought, where the governor could pardon you in other, because you can do that in other states, I thought maybe
I'm Brian Kemp.
Brian Kemp would be the funny man standing between Trump and freedom, because Trump could technically, I guess, pardon himself on federal issues, on federal crimes, but he cannot pardon himself on state crimes. So we'd have to go to Brian Kemp and beg him. to pardon him, but that is not the case in Georgia anyway. The governor does not have, pardon power in the same way that in other states the governor does. Ultimately, this is all you need to know about Brian Kemp.
I'm Brian Kemp. I'm so conservative. I blow up government spending. My chainsaw's ready to rip up some regulations. I got a big truck, just in case I need to round up criminal illegals and take them home myself. Yep, I just said that. I'm Brian Kemp. If you want a politically incorrect conservative, that's me.
Yeah. So just understand, like, it's not like Brian Kemp is a good guy. And the reason why I wanted you to understand that, the reason why I wanted you to see that, I like that people are saying fucking gross. First of all, I mean, of course it's gross. It's like, that's what conservative politics is, okay? Conservative politics revolves around vice signaling. The only truthful thing that he said in that situation was he's Brian Kemp and also that he wants to deregulate. That's it. Everything else is just like seasoning. Oh, I want to round up illegals in my F-350, in the back of my F-350. It's like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, if Brian Kemp had the power and wouldn't pardon Trump, the libs would suck him like they did Liz Cheney. Yes. He also, ironically, and Megaphonics is correct in this, did the classic, yep, I did that. That's a lightsaber dude meme, but like in a Republican fashion. He's like, yep, I said that. I said it. Illegals, I'm rounding them up. Yep. Yeah. That's racism, dude. Anyway, in 2020, so Donald Trump posted this, said a large, complex, detailed, but irrefutable report on the presidential election fraud, which took place in Georgia, is almost complete and will be presented by me at a major news conference at 11 a.m. on Monday of next week in Bedminster, New Jersey. Based on the result of this conclusive report, all charges should be dropped against me and others. There will be a complete exoneration. They never went after those that rigged the election. They only went after those that fought to find. And I'm not going to get clipped reading that, okay? Because there's a lot of people out there that desperately working overtime to try to clip me out of context saying something that even is near the N-word. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to jump on that. Okay? Not doing it. Anyway, so this is an extension, a continuation of like the classic perfect phone call. Okay? Perfect phone call. The greatest phone call of all time, which was perfect. It is perfect, not in the way that Trump thinks is perfect, but it's perfect to show like criminal conspiracy and fraud. It's perfect in the sense that in the phone call, he actually said the exact number, for example. Like, he didn't actually ballpark it. He didn't say 12,000. He said 11,780 votes. And then followed that up with one more than we have right now, which is, it is perfect for the fucking district attorney. It's perfect for the prosecutorial team. They're like, oh my God, how perfect is this for us? It's a slam dunk case. Now, I have seen a lot of very funny defenses of this. Classic internet hippo meme comes to mind where he once famously said, a lot of what's happening with conservatism in modern day is basically looking at like crimes and then making it seem as though it's not a crime, where they'll like Donald Trump and his defenders are saying like, I didn't know it was illegal to just make a phone call to a friend on a Sunday afternoon. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not the point. You're saying things that are illegal in the phone call, which is unironically the conservative defense now. People are basically stating, oh, it's illegal to say the election was rigged. Wow. Oh my God. They're coming after you too. It's like, no, they're not coming after you, Deborah. They're not coming after you, Hank, okay? Like, it's not illegal to say the election was stolen. You've been saying it non-fucking stop since the election was stolen from you by Joe Biden. See, I'm saying it too. Joe Biden stole the election from Donald Trump. Sucks to suck. You got by a fucking corpse, okay? There you go. Arrest me, officers. I've said the election was stolen, okay? Notice how that's not illegal for me to say. Is it because I'm a libtard? No. It's because I'm not saying it in the act of a criminal conspiracy when I'm giving a clear directive to a person in a position of power to behave a certain way that is illegal. There it is. This is the OG. New right-wing thing is describing crimes as generically as possible to pretend like they're not crimes. Someone gets convicted of conspiracy and they start yelling, wow, so it's illegal to make plans with friends now. That's what they're doing. Making fun of Mike Pence is illegal now too, says Jack Posobiec. Calling Mike Pence a wimp is now a felony in the communist state of Georgia, says Cat Turd. Fuck yeah. Here's some more. Greg Price says, things that are now illegal according to the Georgia indictment. Asking people for phone numbers, reserving rooms in Capitol building, telling people to watch TV, getting people to attend legislative hearings. It's illegal to rob a bank now. It's illegal to go to a bank now. It's illegal to ask for money at a bank. That's what this is. That is literally what this is. And you know what? If you were to ask me in like 2014, 2015, I would have said these guys know what they're saying is not true. That they are being deceptive on purpose because they think this is a good way to deflect away from the main point of contention. In 2023, I'm not so sure. I think they are this stupid. I think literally they are this stupid. I think they have bludgeoned themselves in the head with so much entitlement, so much American exceptionalism, so much American individualism, and so much American dogma that I do legitimately think they are this stupid. Like the family of the guy in Provo, Utah, who very clearly said, I am going to assassinate the president with my M24 that I'm dusting off right now. I'm going to wear a ghillie suit and I'm going to kill him. He's coming to town and I'm going to do all of these things. He said that, right? He posted on Facebook. Then he followed it up by saying, FBI, I know you're watching. You know, come over to my house. I have guns waiting for you. You know, I'll kill you too. That was an invitation for suicide by law enforcement, okay? That's what that was. Now, every normal person should understand that. And yet, for some reason, there were conservatives who were saying, no, it's his free speech right. Because I do legitimately think people are that stupid now. I do legitimately believe that people are that fucking stupid now. Okay? You're catching up finally? No, I think that there was always a lot of stupid people. I think that there were always a lot of stupid people. Okay? However, I think the thought leaders on the conservative side were maliciously engaging with them. They were doing it in a cynical way. They were behaving dumber than they actually are because they think it's a deceiving counter. It's a successful counter. I no longer believe that the thought leaders on the right, for the most part, are actually doing this cynically. I think that they are doing it because they're just as stupid. It's also kind of wild because back in the day, maybe we banned too many people, but back in the day, when I used to duke it out about issues like this, there would be a significant number of Trump supporters in here, at the very least, trying to defend it. And those guys are gone. And I don't know if it's because there's not a lot of momentum or excitement to defend Donald Trump publicly because they recognize that he's fucked, or I don't know if they just gave up. I don't know if we banned all of them, you know? But it makes me kind of sad. Makes me kind of sad. I'll admit. It's cynical, but it's their only avenue to argue, so they lost their creative touch. Maybe they're on kick. I don't know. Maybe they died of COVID. I don't know if there's more of an indication of what the situation is. I don't know if this is a better indication of what the situation looks like because we have seen the real life examples of this. If Donald Trump was arrested or indicted in like 2021, I feel like there would be a tremendous crowd. I feel like there would be so many more people that are out in public defending Donald Trump. And yet, we don't see them. We don't see them nowadays. And I don't know what the fuck's going on. And I've said this before. I think January 6th was definitely the first time where mainstream Republican supporters did something that was truly fucked up in the eyes of the law, and they suffered the consequences of that legally, and they were shocked. And I think they legitimately thought that this would not happen to them. Yeah. But they're not out there protesting, and it makes me sad. It makes me sad not to see them. I miss them a little bit. I do. I miss them. Maybe the government should scale back on their militancy towards these bold, beautiful, patriotic Americans. On the other hand, however, here's the Washington Post. Opinion: is Georgia's case against Trump one case too many? I told you this yesterday. I keep asking liberals to deliver, and they keep delivering. I was waiting for someone on the liberal side to finally come out and be like, listen, I think we should just let him go. I mean, come on. In the interest of fairness and bipartisanship, we should maybe just let the little guy do a little bit of crime. Come on. Let a few slide. Liberals will always try to go back to this reasonable center that they've cultivated that is not so reasonable. Okay? They'll always try to re-triangulate no matter what happens. It's always going to happen. But let's get started. Let's watch. We have so many clips on the docket here. We covered what Trump had said. Let's hear some of the details first, and then we'll dive into the reactions.
A grand jury in Atlanta returned an indictment that alleges former President Trump and 18 other defendants knowingly joined a conspiracy to unlawfully change the outcome of the 2020 election in the state of.
Your boy Ryan Grimm said that with the last indictment, even suggested Biden should pardon Trump if he promised not to run for president. Yeah, that's insane. That would be the dumbest thing that anyone could ever do, especially because that would then cave into all of the things that Republicans have been claiming, that they're only doing this to stop Donald Trump from running, and not because he legitimately has done crimes, which he has.
Georgia.
The defendants engaged in a criminal racketeering enterprise to overturn Georgia's presidential election result.
The indictment was handed up before cameras Monday night after the grand jury heard from a series of witnesses. It culminates a 2.5-year investigation by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis.
The indictment includes 41 felony counts and is 97 pages long.
The indictment charges 19 people, including Trump, his former White House chief of.
Who's this lady? What's her name? This is the district attorney, Fani Willis, who is not a great person, in my opinion. I think she's a massive careerist, and she's utilized the RICO chart. She's utilized RICO statutes against teachers. I don't know if it was her that specifically tried to use it against the Cop City protesters or someone else, but most famously, she's utilized the RICO against YSL. Free Jeffrey, Free Slime. I'm, of course, referencing Young Thug. So I think that, she's a typical careerist. Cop City protesters getting RICOs in Georgia. Yeah, I know, but I don't know if it was her direction or someone else on that.
Staff Mark Meadows, former lawyer Rudy Giuliani, conservative attorney John Eastman, former Justice Department.
God damn, look at these defendants, dude. This is a sexy-ass list, baby. Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Mark Meadows, and our boy Kenneth Cheesebro. He's back. Jeffrey Clark, Jenna Ellis, Ray Smith III, Robert Cheeley, Michael A. Roman, David Schaefer, Sean Still, Stephen Lee, Harrison Floyd, Trevian C. Cuddy, and, of course, yet another incredible one, Sidney Powell, as we know. This is also from the federal case as well. Some of these are from the federal case. These are some of the other defendants. Kathy Latham, Scott Hall, Missy Hampton. Now, one thing that I will admit, I do love me a good story. I do love me a good story that starts with America's mayor. America's mayor that got to that position after 9/11, but won that mayoral role by being an aggressive prosecutor. That's right, Rudolph Giuliani. A very famous prosecutor. Famous for what? Famous for tackling organized crime. Using what statute? You guessed it, a motherfucking RICO, baby. If there's one guy that knows, RICO's in and out, full circle, we're talking Rudolph Giuliani. You'll love to see it, folks. How the mighty have fallen. Okay? This is a very fun story for many different reasons. But that is just one that I personally find really hilarious. One of these people is also a publicist for Kanye West. I don't know exactly which one it is, but that was really funny as well. And of course, obviously, Fani Willis, the DA, also was prosecuting or is prosecuting the YSL case as well. It's Trevian C. Cuddy, which is Kanye's publicist. Fucking is awesome.
Department official Jeffrey Clark, and several other Trump allies. The former president is facing 13 felony counts, including violating Georgia's RICO Act, a racketeering law used to take down major crime organizations.
There's no way we lost Georgia. There's no way. That was a rigged election.
The investigation.
I was looking for some of these names. Harrison Floyd is the leader of the Black Voices for Trump. Oh, I love that. In this picture, a person holds up a sign, Black Voices for Trump, at a march and rally for President Donald Trump. Have you seen this? Oh, is this the Larry King? Yeah. Let me tell you something, okay? We're going to get to the reactions. Hold on. Spoilerino, okay? Spoilerino alert. John Eastman, one of Trump's lawyers that got RICO'd, is going to be disbarred as a lawyer next week in Los Angeles court by the state of California. Due to his actions to push false allegations of voter fraud following the 2020 presidential election. The pro-Trump attorney now faces 11 disciplinary charges in an ongoing trial taking place in downtown Los Angeles. For the record, I mean, things are not looking good for the Trump people, okay? Especially considering that Donald Trump famously does not care about defending those who have stood by him. And I'm here for it. I love this shit. I love it. I enjoy it. And you should too. This is a moment where no matter how much of a Maoist third worldist or whatever the fuck you are, you can just sit back and watch a person with profound amounts of power who has been so incredibly and transparently corrupt get what's coming for him by other people that are also uniquely corrupt in their own ways, right? But still, it's like a telenovela. I am libbed up on this day. And I am not ashamed to admit that I'm libbed up on this day. Okay? Yeah. This is my fight song. You know what I mean? I'm Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Was first sparked by this January 2021 phone call.
You should love it. No, dude. I real life lost most of my direct family to this. I'm tired, bro. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, are you talking about COVID or what? Like, are you excited? You should still love it and enjoy it that Donald Trump's going to potentially jail or something. Like, what do you mean?
Where then President Trump asked Georgia Secretary of State Republican Brad Raffensperger to find the votes to win him Georgia. Trump has repeatedly defended the call and denied all wrongdoing.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
Rudy Giuliani is one of the defendants.
As I've said time and time again in this perfect phone call, which Donald Trump is right, it was a perfect phone call. He very openly states the exact number, one more vote than what he was losing to Joe Biden by. Now, sorry, when you fucking ask that to a person whose role and responsibility in the election is directly controlling the elections, you're not just simply asking a question. You can't rob a bank and then turn around and be like, I'm just exercising my First Amendment rights. I just wanted to get the money from the bank. What the fuck's going on? As we have used the bank analogy time and time again, it does not also matter whether you legitimately believe that the bank has your money or not. That is not a defense. You can't in your mind think, well, this bank has my money, so I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to threaten the person that works at the bank to give me the money, to put it in a bag. That's still a bank robbery. Okay? And a number that specific is actually, not really Trumpian at all, unless it is for a specific purpose. And that purpose is find these fucking votes for me so I win Georgia.
Accused of racketeering and conspiracy for making calls to pressure local officials and making false statements about election fraud before legislative committees.
I don't have to be a genius to figure out that those votes are not legitimate votes.
His lawyer called the indictment a book of lies.
I consider this very unfair, very unjust toward me, but much worse toward my country.
The indictment also accuses several defendants of harassing and intimidating Fulton County election worker.
Any chance he did this in 2016 too? No. How could he have done it in 2016? He was just a real estate guy. He didn't have any fucking power to do this. This is, okay, understand something. What Donald Trump is doing here is not a crime that like a lot of other Americans or the average American can get indicted for. Because you have to be the president or at least like in contact with the Secretary of State or the Lieutenant Governor of the state that you want to change the election outcomes in. Do you see what I'm saying? That's why whenever people say, they came after Trump, they're going to come after you too, buddy. Like, that's a silly take. Because if your HVAC business owning father tried to call in to a congressperson's office or the governor's office and said, hey, you better find 11,780 votes right now, and then click, ended the phone call, that's probably not prosecutable. That's, depending on the level of threat that your HVAC business owner father engaged in, right? But that's entirely different than what Trump was doing. A deliberate attempt. Anyway.
Ruby Freeman to falsely confess to election crimes. She testified before the House January 6th Select Committee last summer.
Do you know how it feels to have the President of the United States to target you?
In a statement, Trump's legal team.
This was actually one of the most devastating parts about it, too, for the record. We can cover like a longer part of her testimony, but it was so sad. It's so sad. There are very real people that suffered. There are very real people that suffered as a consequence of Donald Trump's schemes. You know what I mean?
To target you.
In a statement, Trump's legal team accused the DA of trying to force through and rush the indictment.
We look at the facts, we look at the law, and we bring charges.
According to the Fulton County.
And the people, who was like leading the helm on the threatening of that random lady? Rudolph motherfucking Giuliani. So I hope he goes to jail.
County Clerk's Office, a fictitious document was posted to a website Monday appearing to reveal the charges against the former president, but it was quickly taken down. The DA didn't comment on the post, but said it's an issue for the court. Gail?
CBS News legal analyst, that's Ricky Kleeman, and our chief election and campaign correspondent, Robert Costa. Good morning to you both. Ricky, let's start with you. I know a lot of people have indictment fatigue.
Yeah, poll workers are just normal people who volunteer and are very sweet, civic-minded people who just want to do something good. Obviously, some of them are freaks now, especially with like the Trump wave of trying to manipulate every aspect of an election. But overall, most poll workers, which by the way are Republican in red states, like in red districts, like they're still fucking Republican, you know what I mean? They're doing it because they want to make it as accessible as possible. Remember this? Trevian baiting Ruby into a police station? Oh yeah, I do remember this. Trevian Cuddy, a former publicist for Kanye West, was indicted today for her role of pressuring Fulton County election worker Ruby Freeman, as shown here in this video. Yeah, we did cover this back then. 100%. Yeah, she's fucking freak, dude. Absolute psycho.
You are elusive for a party that needs to tidy up. I work with some of the biggest names in the industry. Crisis is my thing. One thing we don't want to do for you is create another person. I'm going to call Harrison Floyd. I'm going to put him on speaker. Who is Harrison Floyd? Harrison Floyd is Harrison Floyd of that group of crisis management, very high level with authoritative powers to get you protected that you need. And I feel the officers, this is at this moment citizens. I'm hoping that you are trusting that this information doesn't go any further. I have to honestly advise, I don't know her background.
I can step over there if you're comfortable. That's fine?
Yeah, I want her to be comfortable, but I also want to advise her that there are federal people who are involved here that I don't know who is connected to who. And I really need for her to be as nonchalant as possible with this conversation that we are going to have, so that if she does make a decision, she's protected in her decision.
Yeah, I mean, Acid Burns made a massive effort post on Twitter. I got curious. Here's my sloppy notes. Rudy Giuliani, well-known. John Eastman, the Federal Society. Mark Meadows, Conservative Partnership Institute. Kenneth Cheesebro, lawyer, bar certified in California, Florida, MA, New Jersey, New York, Texas. Jeffrey Clark, Chief of Litigation and Director of Strategy for the New Civil Liberties Alliance, NCLA, also recipient of a house raid by the feds. Jenna Ellis, lawyer, bar certified in Colorado, Club Q shooting truther, world's worst Gen X Scorpio. Ray Smith III, lawyer, bar certified in Georgia, the least prepared Eagle Scout. Robert Cheeley, lawyer, bar certified in GA, American Association of Justice member. Michael Roman, treasurer at the International Democratic Union, ran an in-house intelligence unit for the Koch brothers. David Schaefer, ex-Georgia State Senator, Twitter subscriber to Ian Miles Chong. That's funny. Sean Micah Treasure Still. Dude has 4 names and no easily discernible web presence. Stephen Lee, a.k.a. Reverend Stephen Cliffguard Lee, a police chaplain who currently leads a suburban Chicago Lutheran church. Harrison Floyd, member of Black Voices for Trump, self-described entrepreneur. Trevian Cuddy, former publicist of Kanye West, obvious girl boss, self-proclaimed media manipulator. Sydney Catherine Powell, disgraced Texas lawyer. Dominion voting systems truther. As you guys know, Sidney Powell is one of the GOATs. Self-described theories that are pretty wackadoo. Kathleen Latham, former Coffee County GOP chairwoman, terrible at noticing surveillance cameras, fake elector. Scott Hall, poll watcher, such a genetic name. Missy Hampton, Coffee County member, help with machine interference. The International Democratic Union is the right-wing counter to the Socialist International, by the way. I love that. The liberals were like, we should do our own Socialist International. That's fire. It's just called every facet of Western liberal democracy, but I guess they wanted their own little club on top of that. The Hogs are so sad. Can't wait to see them throw a temper tantrum. Honestly, the Hogs are sad, but temper tantrums is one that I expected as well, and yet for some reason it's not coming, at least in public. They're just chirping on TikTok for the most part and are almost doing it just to garner attention and support from other hogs that are also on TikTok. Back in the day, they would chirp on TikTok nonstop, but then they'd also kind of storm the halls. They would get together. This was a community activity for them. They've turned into fucking internet slacktivists. They are, in some ways, doing the black Instagram block for BLM. Hog energy used to actually lead to on-the-ground momentum. That was a big difference that you immediately noticed when comparing Donald Trump to any other candidate. Think about it. Donald Trump could always fill up a stadium. Okay? Now, you'll get a lot of likes if you say Civil War, even though, I mean, look, I dunked on Tim Pool last night. I saw this and I was like, I have to make fun of this. This is so stupid. Tim Pool said Civil War, only got 4,000 likes. I say, imagine going to Civil War over Rudolph Giuliani alongside the 25 other freaks that were bored enough to go to the Trump courthouse protest. It's like, it's not even getting you the clout that it normally did. It once did. The momentum is dull. How were they able to mobilize for January 6th? Do they not want to organize in fear of being arrested? 2 reasons, and I have said this so many times. 2 reasons as to why January 6th is not happening again in these situations. Number 1, and perhaps most important, January 6th happened with astroturfed instruments that the Republican Party regularly utilizes that are currently not working at the behest of Donald Trump anymore. You forget, the Republican Party isn't just politicians and the Republican voters. The Republican Party is comprised of a shit ton of think tanks and institutions that you've never heard of, and some that you have, like ALEC and Turning Point USA, that is a more famous version of this, that actually bust people in to DC, that made it easier for people to get angry in one specific location. And that's not really happening. The money that was backing Donald Trump is not necessarily backing Donald Trump in the same way any longer. We saw this. There was an alternative conference that occurred after Donald Trump had announced his presidential run last year. There was another conference that was happening alongside CPAC where I think it was either RNC or CPAC. Which one was it? Where all the big ticket donors, the Koch brothers and the like, actually brought Ron DeSantis, who at the time had not announced that he was running for president, as a speaker during RNC where Donald Trump was speaking. If you got all of the think tank owning billionaires sitting back and waiting to see the outcome of this primary and refusing to pump AstroTurf dollars into Donald Trump, and Donald Trump doesn't have that same juice and momentum that he did in 2016 as an outsider candidate who says it like it is, all of a sudden you're arriving at a different problem. Now, the second reason why January 6th is unlikely to happen again is because it already happened, and Republicans for the first time realize that even if you are a white business owner from a southern state where you normally in your little town are untouchable and could utilize law enforcement like your own private brand of mercenaries, well, that's not the case when you go and storm the Capitol. Not necessary. You don't have that level of entitlement that translates to practice when you do actually go and storm the halls of Congress. It was a come to Jesus moment for a lot of people that thought before that they could get away with doing whatever kind of fucking crime that they wanted to, whatever kind of ruckus that they wanted to cause. So I think that definitely had a chilling effect. They realized that their privilege only extended so far, which I think stopped a lot of Americans as a deterrent, stopped a lot of Americans from participating in activities like this. Here it is, by the way. Got to post this. Obviously, Trevian Cuddy. Among those who threatened Ruby Friedman was Trevian Cuddy, an alleged Kanye associate and former publicist for R. Kelly and a friend of Candace Owens. Here she is on the private jet with the My Pillow guy. I suspect the Michael Pillow guy no longer has that private jet. And here's Fannie Willis, who I do not like, who's doing at least a good thing in this situation. Let's take a look.
Thank you for joining us. I'm here with the prosecutors and investigators who have worked diligently on the investigation of criminal attempts to interfere in the administration of Georgia's 2020 presidential election. Today, based on information developed by that investigation, a Fulton County grand jury.
So when does this guy get arrested? Before next Monday when he totally exonerates himself and proves the election fraud, or after? Thank you. Thank you so much. This is what I'm talking about, dude. Finally. Fuck! He's being sarcastic. God damn it! I got so excited. I thought we had a fucking Trump Republican in the chat. Where have they gone? Where are they? I'm genuinely thinking about doing a mass unban. The problem is the hyper online individuals that are Republican have become like extremely groped up weirdos who like Ron DeSantis and white nationalism. So like I don't want to unban those guys. Those guys fucking suck. Back in the day, there was like the normie conservative who was like, Trump's your president and you should love it, libtard. You know what I mean? Like the normal Republican who is a Trump supporter has gone away. They're gone.
Returned a true bill of indictment, charging 19 individuals with violations of Georgia law arising from a criminal conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in this state. The indictment includes 41 felony counts and is 97 pages long. Please remember that everyone charged in this bill of indictment is presumed innocent. Specifically, the indictment brings felony charges against Donald John Trump, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, John Charles Eastman, Mark Randall Meadows, John Cheeseborough, Jeffrey Clark,
not Cheeseborough,
Jenna
no,
Lynn Ellis, Ray Stallings Smith III, Robert David Cheeley, Michael A. Roman, David James Schaefer, Sean Micah Tresher Steele, Stephen Cliffgard Lee, Harrison William Prescott Floyd.
I think a big part of why there's like so many co-conspirators is also because you flip them. You flip them, you know, like Gunna. She already has a lot of practice with that. Flip him to get the cheese, you know? The rats that come crawling out of the woodwork. And the reality is, Donald Trump himself is the king rat. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't give a shit about any of the other people that have ever worked with him. So, if you work for Donald Trump, why don't you flip on him, right? Like, you have to. He would do the exact same to you. Governor Kemp tweet, we already read it. Yeah. The 2020 election in Georgia was not stolen. For nearly 3 years now, anyone with evidence of fraud has failed to come forward under oath and prove anything in a court of law. Our elections in Georgia are secure, accessible, and fair, and will continue to be as long as I'm governor. The future of our country is at stake in 2024, and that must be our focus. Part of the reason why Brian Kemp is also saying this is because, newsflash, if you make voting is actually unfair and it's totally fraudulent, your main point to try to draw a larger crowd, you're probably not going to get a lot of people to go out and vote. You're literally depressing voter turnout. You're depressing voter turnout by constantly saying your vote doesn't matter, your vote doesn't matter, your vote doesn't matter. That's what's going on. A lot of people don't want to vote anyway because it's like a chore. It's made as difficult as possible by the Republican Party, and the Democratic Party also kind of takes advantage of that every now and then. But ultimately, voting is not easy to do in this country. It's complicated, especially in comparison to other countries. So constantly railing against mail-in ballots, for example, constantly railing against initiatives that make it easier to vote, for example, is going to depress turnout. And your expectation is that it'll depress Democratic Party turnout, which is true, especially when done correctly. This has been a major strategy for the Republican Party to win state elections, to win local elections, and certainly to win the presidency by the Electoral College, right? Implementing new measures all the time, shutting off polling stations, in black and brown neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods that historically vote Democrat, making it as hard as possible for the working class to vote by refusing to make it a national holiday to go out and vote. I was talking to my French friend Squeezy earlier today about voting in America, and he was shocked when he found out that it's on a Tuesday. It's like, what? I was like, yeah, it's a work day. Shocked. He didn't understand it. How do you respond to conservatives who claim the only reason the fraud evidence hasn't been proven in a court of law is because every time they've tried, they've been dismissed on a lack of standing, what they claim is a technicality? I mean, I don't know how to respond to that. It's in a way, it's no different. You can make any kind of erroneous, ridiculous, made-up claim. There is a real reason for why these courts in our criminal justice system have that procedure in place. It's to hand wave away ridiculous claims such as that. And it's not always for a lack of standing, for the record. There are certainly cases that have been pushed aside by the courts for a lack of standing. But what you're talking about is coming in the aftermath of multiple recounts, hand recounts, electronic recounts. Like, you can't do that. I'm a lawyer and can respond. They lost on other issues too, not just standing, unwarranted delay, latches, etc. Anyway. And by the way, half of the judges that have dismissed these ridiculous lawsuits aren't even Democrats. They're not libs. Most of these guys, especially in the states that Trump is pushing these lawsuits, are Trump appointees or lifelong Republican judges. So, like, the idea that we have to go and find someone who, like, sleeps with a Trump blanket on, and only then can we find true justice in this world is already a silly one, but it's one that Republicans already operate under, right? The notion that, like, well, the only time you can truly try anybody is if a Republican is the one doing it, right? It's a meme in Washington at this point. But nowadays, even if it's a Republican or a Trump appointee, it doesn't matter, because if it doesn't go in the direction that Trump wants it to go, then it's still fraudulent. I mean, witnesses in this situation in Georgia are fucking Republicans, okay? They're Republicans. They're lifelong Republicans. The lieutenant governor, who's a key witness in this case, is a Republican, okay? He's the Republican lieutenant governor, or was the Republican lieutenant governor. There's also some additional information here. A state agency is moving ahead with plans that will determine whether Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones faces criminal charges as a part of the scheme to overturn the 2020 presidential election in Georgia, D. Wickert reports. Jones is one of 30 people who prosecutors said participated in a conspiracy to overturn the election. Like, this is the current lieutenant governor. The former one was a key witness. Jones had served as a fake GOP elector, supported lawsuits that sought to void the 2020 election, and pressed Vice President Mike Pence to reject the official results. The lib judge jury jurisdiction argument is so funny to me. All these indictments are in places where Trump has committed the crimes: New York City, D.C., Florida, Georgia. So maybe Trump should stop committing crimes in liberal jurisdictions. Yeah, except some of those places are not liberal jurisdictions, like Florida or even Georgia. That's the hilarious part about this, is like the idea that Georgia is like a deep blue state is so funny when, like, it was somewhat of an upset. You know what I mean? Like, when did Georgia become this beacon of, democratic prosperity all of a sudden? It's so fucking stupid. And Florida is not liberal at all. But they basically want to only be tried in, like, a West Virginia district that was, like, plus 65 Donald Trump, with, like, 8 people that are all related to one another and 1,000 fucking cows that live in the district. That's it. That's the only time it can be true justice, is when the outcome is what I want it to be. Any other outcome is injustice. That's what it is. These people are entitled babies. Here is an example.
Train derailments, all of our food factories, processing plants burning down or closing down. Majority of the world is on fire right now. Look at the map. What's happened in Hawaii was a direct attack. I know that in my heart. It's not going to stop.
She knows it in her heart. She knows in her heart. You can't change her mind. At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break, and she knows in her heart she's not going to see it. Okay? But she will, unless she's subscribed. But it don't matter. She'll look at the ad break and she'll go, I don't care. Don't see it in my heart of hearts. I know it's not true. It is true. At the top of the hour, there is a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free, or by getting gifted a sub like Psychedelic Gazelle, which gifted 10 gifted subs to allow 10 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Yeah, she knows. She knows it was lasers. I know it in my heart. It was a direct energy weapon. Mountain Dew. I stopped drinking that garbage. Let me tell you something. Mountain Dew is somehow involved. PepsiCo. Everything is a grand conspiracy except for the grandest conspiracy of all, which is capitalism. Gabe Sandwich, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. What if Trump uses a song cause it defends? Then I think he has a chance of getting acquitted. Yeah, that only works in the court of public opinion in a very hyper niche part of the internet. That is Twitch, Reddit, certain circles on Twitter. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, that's not going to work for, real law. We haven't gotten to that part yet. You know what I mean? People are not that fucking stupid yet to be like, Your Honor, have you considered that there are communists abound? I was simply doing what I had to.
Anytime soon. The elites have started war against us, and everybody's just sitting back. It has started, you guys. It's been started. When is enough going to be enough?
I mean, this is literally the continuation of like the crying liberal SJW meme when Trump got elected. You know what I mean? Everyone's a liberal. Everyone's a liberal. Never forget it, folks. Conservatives are also liberals. They're all libtards, okay? Everyone at the end of the day is just like, I can't believe it. Democracy manifest. What is happening?
It's scary times right now. It's not going to stop. It's only going to keep getting worse. We have to stand with President Trump and every single politician that supports him. Evil is taking over.
I love that. I love that, dude. So good. All right, let's hear Fonnie Willis.
Travion C. Cootie, Sydney Catherine Powell, Kathleen Austin Latham, Scott Graham Hall, and Misty Hampton, also known as Emily Misty Hayes. Every individual charged in the indictment is charged with 1 count of violating Georgia's Racketeer, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act through participation in a criminal enterprise in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere to accomplish the illegal goal of allowing Donald J. Trump to seize the presidential term of office beginning on January 20th, 21. Specifically, the participants in association took various actions in Georgia and elsewhere to block the counting of the votes of the presidential electors who were certified as the winners of Georgia's 2020 general election. As you examine the indictment, you will see acts that are identified as overt acts and those that are identified as predicate acts, sometimes called acts of racketeering activity. Overt acts are not necessarily crimes under Georgia law in isolation, but are alleged to be acts taken in furtherance of the conspiracy. Many occurred in Georgia, and some occurred in other jurisdictions and are included because the grand jury believes they were part of the illegal effort to overturn the results of Georgia's 2020 presidential election. The acts identified as predicate acts or acts of racketeering activity are crimes that are alleged to have been committed in furtherance of the criminal enterprise. Acts of racketeering activity are also charged as separate counts in the indictment against those who are alleged to have committed them. All elections
How can she do this to us?
Are administered by the states, which are given the responsibility of ensuring a fair process
He did
and
everything
an
right.
accurate counting of the votes. That includes elections for presidential electors, Congress, state officials, and local offices. The state's role in this process is essential to the functioning of our democracy. Georgia, like every state, has laws that allow those who believe that results of an election are wrong, whether because of intentional wrongdoing or unintentional error, to challenge those results in our
Yeah, he was
state
heading over
courts.
there, all right. Little did he know.
The indictment
Little did he
alleges
know
that
that would
rather
be
than Biden
the last time he headed over there as a free man. And not a man that was unfairly and unjustifiably prosecuted by the Unselect Committee and also District Attorney Fani Willis. Nobody knew the outcome of that perfect phone call. The outcome of that perfect phone call where he did everything right would end up with an indictment. Nobody knew. They're not after Donald Trump. They're after you. And he's just standing in the way. That's right. 11,780 votes. All it took for poor baby Donald John Trump to get indicted. One more than what was needed.
abide by Georgia's legal process for election challenges, the defendants engaged in a criminal racketeering enterprise to overturn Georgia's presidential election result. Subsequent to the indictment, as is the normal process in Georgia law, the grand jury issued arrest warrants for those who are charged. I am giving the defendants the opportunity to voluntarily surrender no later than noon on Friday, the 25th day of August, 2023. I remind everyone here that an indictment is only a...
That's so soon. That's so soon. Trump has a week to make up the best lie of his life. I'm excited to see what it is. I mean, he's cooking something. He said on Monday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time, he is going to go to an undisclosed location. I don't know where he said he was going to do it, but he is going to reveal verifiable, irrefutable evidence that the election in Georgia was stolen. Oh, from Bedminster. Okay. Bedminster, New Jersey, folks. No better way and no better place to describe crimes against me, Donald John Trump.
Series of allegations based on a grand jury's determination of probable cause to support the charges.
One funny part of this that I guess is almost like a perfect thing that the multiple different prosecutions since January 6th has created is an environment that is not interested in like any kind of serious rioting or anything like that. There's not enough organizational power. There's not enough momentum behind it, which is why even if Donald Trump would turn around and try to like hit the January 6th notes again and be like, they're coming after me, folks. We got to do something about it. We've already played that. We've already happened. We've already watched that happen in real time. So like, even if he was like, I'm begging you, go out and riot in the fucking streets or whatever, he's quite literally being prosecuted for that right now. He is being prosecuted for that right now. And all of the other guys who were willing and able to do that are currently in jail for doing it the first time. Yeah, some might say he played his trump card.
It is now the duty of my office to prove these charges in the indictment beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. I would like to take a moment to thank the Superior Court Clerk, Shay Alexander, and her staff for staying late and making sure that this indictment was processed. I would also like to thank the men and women of Sheriff Labatt's office for keeping the courthouse open, but most importantly, for keeping us safe over the weeks and months that have led up to this indictment, and for what I know they will continue to do to keep us safe. We also want to thank the Atlanta Police Department and other law enforcement partners who have worked with the sheriff to keep us safe. I will now take a very limited number of questions prior to going to sleep.
I'll go first.
Madam District Attorney.
If you don't mind, Savannah Levins with 11 Alive. Quick question. Can you clarify in Georgia the mandatory minimum when it comes to RICO charges, whether it's servable by probation or how that might
Yeah, we're going to talk about the explanation for the leak in a second.
play out?
The RICO charges has time that you have to serve, so it is not a probated sentence.
Madam District Attorney, what's the timetable for your trial?
What is the timetable for the trial? As you know, in this jurisdiction, trials are set by the judges. And so it will be the judge that sets the date of the trial. This office will be submitting a proposed scheduling order within this week. However, that will totally be at the discretion of the judge.
You're the fourth person, the fourth jurisdiction now to indict Donald Trump. Do you believe you need to be the fourth one to try him, or could you move it up? Do you want to be the first to try him?
I don't have any desire to be first or last. I want to try him and be respectful for our sovereign states. We do want to move this case along, and so we will be asking for a proposed order that occurs a trial date within the next 6 months.
Have you had any contact? Earlier today, there was a fictitious document, according to the Fulton County Clerk's Office, that was circulated online with charges against former President Donald Trump. That fictitious document matched exactly the charges that we now see in this indictment. Can you tell us more about that document leak? Because now you have the former president's lawyers who are saying that this is emblematic of a serious problem with your office.
No, I can't tell you anything about what you refer to. What I can tell you is that we had a grand jury here in Fulton County. They deliberated till almost 8 o'clock, if not right after 8 o'clock. An indictment was returned. It was true billed, and you now have an indictment. I am not an expert on clerks' duties or even administrative duties. I wouldn't know how to work that system, and so I'm not going to speculate. Next question.
Have you had any contact with the special counsel about overlap between these cases, and do you intend to try all?
So the interesting part about the document leak is that I know a lot of people have talked about it, and I'll read what the office said in a second. But like, I could totally, if I put my conspiratorial hat on, I would suspect that document leak was favoring Donald Trump and his team for a potential, gearing up for a potential mistrial. Not only that, but also, I saw somewhere, I don't know if this is real or not, but did they also fucking release the names of the grand jury people? Like they accidentally or deliberately, I don't know, released the names of the people that were in the jury. Yes, they did. It's required in Georgia. Oh, okay. There's public in Georgia. That's terrifying. The leak gave Trump more time to prepare a statement. Yeah, that leak benefits Donald Trump. It's like it benefits Donald Trump's team way more than it hurts them. This original leak, not the juror one I'm talking about. Because one, you could be like, oh, there's like discrepancies happening. Two, you can gear up what kind of counter you have for this indictment that's coming down. I don't know. This is what their Fulton Clerk of Court provides update on special purpose grand jury documents, by the way. From the Office of the Fulton County Clerk of Superior Magistrate Courts, Honorable Che Alexander. Fulton County, Georgia, the Office of the Fulton County Clerk of Superior Magistrate Court announces that midday on August 14, 2023, a media outlet utilizing the Fulton County Press Queue obtained a docket sheet and shared it with other media outlets who then released a sample working document related to the former United States President, Donald Trump, reporting that an indictment had been returned by the special grand jury in Fulton County, Georgia. Upon learning of the mishap, Fulton County Clerk of Superior Magistrate Courts Che Alexander immediately removed the document and issued correspondence notifying the media that a fictitious document was in circulation and no indictment had been returned to the grand jury. In anticipation of issues that arise with entering a potentially large indictment, Alexander used charges that pre-exist. Wait, hold on. This is important to keep in mind that they have a trap card. Okay. In anticipation of issues that arise with entering a potentially large indictment, Alexander used charges that pre-exist in Odyssey to test the system and conduct a trial run. Unfortunately, the sample working document led to the docketing of what appeared to be an indictment, but which was, in fact, only a fictitious docket sheet. Because the media has access to documents before they are published, and while it may have appeared that something official had occurred before the document bore a case number and filing date, it did not include a signed true or no bill, nor an official stamp with Clerk Alexander's name, thereby making the document unofficial and a test sample only. Hours later, after receiving the true bill presented to presiding judge Robert McBurney, Clerk Alexander executed the filing with a file stamp, and moments later, she made the filing public. So, here's what's interesting about this situation. What a lot of people fail to recognize is that, of course, they know a lot of the indictment charges. This is an active investigation. That's the reason why the unofficial sample indictment resembled a lot of the same charges that were in the original one. Why are people saying Bernard? Oh, because Robert McBurney, that's why? You guys are so stupid, actually. Brainworms. Anyway, the office understands the confusion that this matter caused and the sensitivity of all court filings. We remain committed to operating with an extreme level of efficiency, accuracy, and transparency. Media members can expect to be notified of any/all filings in real time and will be provided access to filings via equitable communication. So, basically, it's not shocking that they knew what the charges were going to look like because it's an active investigation. It's happening already. And they wanted to put a blanket out there to, I guess, I don't know, test their systems, and accidentally allowed members of the media to see the document and immediately go forward with it. That seems like the most reasonable thing that happened, which is what many in this community were speculating as well. Law tip from a Georgia law boy: the fact that he was indicted through a grand jury means nothing about the sufficiency of the evidence. Grand jury proceedings have no rules of evidence, no judge, and no defense counsel. It's largely a performative process meant to legitimize the indictment. He did everything right, and they indicted him. I mean, yeah, that's why Sean Hannity very famously repeated the old trope that a grand jury can indict a ham sandwich. That is a very common law cliche, okay? But the official processes have to be followed. And they were. But, of course, because they have nothing, the Trump side really has absolutely nothing to defend themselves with, they are going to latch on to anything and everything they can. One of those things that they're grabbing onto is, and I saw this on Majority Report earlier this morning, Sebastian Gorka was talking about it. He had a really funny line. I hope I can find it somewhere where he... I don't even want to fucking leak it. I need you to find... Okay, here it is. I found it. Media Matters covered it. Here it is.
Former White House advisor in the Trump administration, Sebastian Gorka, joins me now. I think this is the fourth one we've done together, sir. Another indictment, state of Georgia. Your thoughts?
Well, let's just start with what happened earlier today, Rob. What a farrago, what a clown show that the Clark County Court's webpage lists the 30 felony indictments, including a RICO statute, and then whoops, it just magically disappears.
Immediately, Sebastian Gorka hits the, they released it ahead of time, which means, of course, it cannot be an accident, but instead, it implies that there is something evil going on in the state of Georgia.
Immediately tweeted out the document, and I said, this is a con. I mean, this is a setup that, it's so pre-cooked, it's so pre-baked that they've got this thing ready even before the judge has signed off on it, as you just showed a few moments ago. I mean, right. it just tells you.
Okay, well, first of all, they absolutely did not pre-sign on it. So there's that.
Just how corrupt this whole process is.
And also, that's how fucking investigations work. It's not everyone involved in at least like the judicial process had a decent understanding of what like this doesn't materialize immediately in front of the grand jury. These indictments, okay? Like they know what the charges are. They have to show it to the fucking grand jury. So clearly, everyone in the periphery has a decent understanding that is related to the grand jury hearings in the court side, at the DA's office. They all obviously have a decent understanding of what the fucking indictments are looking like, because they have to show those to the grand jury. These materials are not crazy and cooked out of nowhere. These materials are a consequence of a multiple year-long investigation. And the first part of said investigation coming to the court proceeding, coming in front of the court is the grand jury, where you have to show your work. So the idea that this is like, it's so pre-cooked, they leaked it 3 hours before it was officially certified by a judge, is so fucking stupid. Yeah, dude, I know. It was a grand conspiracy to fucking leak it 3 hours ahead of time. It's big, massive grand conspiracy.
Let's be clear. I mean, read the transcript of the Raffensperger call. I've got it in front of me. President Trump said what? He said, I just want...
This part is the greatest defense I have ever seen of all time. I'm telling you, if you haven't seen this yet, you're not ready for it. I want to gear you up for this, okay? Just imagine, what is the absolute dumbest way? What is the absolute dumbest way that you could think a Republican Donald Trump defender would defend Donald Trump's perfect phone call? Okay? What could it be?
Said, I just want to find 11,780 votes. That's like saying, I just want to have vanilla ice cream for dessert. It's not a crime to say, I just want something. They're trying to turn that into a crime. It's as your guess.
Yes, it's so silly. You walk into a bank and say, I just want $1 million, and all of a sudden, it's considered a crime. You go on Craigslist and hire someone who is an assassination specialist, and then you get in a car with them, and it turns out they're law enforcement, but you don't know that, which is trickery, mind you, which should be a crime, and you tell them, I have money for you, I just want you to kill my ex-wife, Barbara. Why is that a crime? It's as simple as saying, I would like vanilla ice cream. Is Trump the bad guy for having a conversation? Unimaginable.
Yes, has said, it's as the president said in Iowa at the weekend, this is about election interference and preventing him from being the man who will unseat Joe Biden.
God forbid men have hobbies like overturning the Democratic results of the 2020 election. God forbid. Your Honor, I did not realize it was illegal. It's so awesome. For those of you who don't know, Sebastian Gorka is a Hungarian Nazi who wore a literal Vitesse Rend Nazi pin when he was in the Trump administration. You know, just some of the major players, some of the best boys of that administration.